Let it be known that on October 6, 2021, the Jets and Giants both have won a game in the same weekend, and the Yankees are out.
They deserved it.
Let's start with that.
How about hi, Seth and Sean Sports Radio?
Yeah,
welcome back, Seth. It's good to have you after your week absence.
It is fantastic to have you after a 2-week absence here. Thank you. Seth Kamen's over there. I'm Sean Palmer, Seth and Sean Sports Radio here on, I don't even know what we are, StreamYard, and backsportspage.com with the our grand poobah Randy Zelia at the helm. So here we are. Again, October 6, 2021. Both of us are on. The Jets and Giants have both won. The Yankees have lost. And Seth, are the Yankees back to the Yankees that we grew up with? I mean, is it we're going to spend a whole lot of money and we're just not going to win? And in any other year, back in the 80s and 90s, when there was no wild card, this team would not have been in the playoffs. They would have spent a ton of money.
Tear it down. Tear it all down. Get rid of Cashman. Get rid of Boone. And build around the 4 or 5 guys. You have Stanton for 5 more years. You're gonna re-sign Aaron. You're gonna make a big offer to Aaron Judge. Hopefully, you can keep it at 4 to 5 years.
No way.
I said hopefully.
Yeah.
I didn't say. I had this argument with our mutual friend who is as knowledgeable on the Yankees as anyone I know.
Yep.
Build around Cole, and everybody else should be fighting for spots. If you want to re-sign Rizzo, go ahead. But Gleyber, Andujar, Urshela, LeMahieu, none of these people should be guaranteed spots after the year they've had.
So let's look at the team and this is courtesy of Spotrac, one of my actual favorite sites.
Are they paying us for this?
They are not.
Okay.
But we'll give them free publicity because they are that good. I mean, seriously, that good. We can bring this up a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you, because I'm blind and I can't see this.
Yeah, we got you. Okay. So are we good here?
Yeah, we're good.
Garrett Cole, that's a no-trade clause, right? $36 million.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Giancarlo Stanton, not a no-trade clause, but nobody's picking up $29 million for the next 5 years. Not going to happen.
Nope.
Chapman, $15 million. I don't know how many years Chapman has.
I think he only has 1 year left.
Well, let's take a look. So you're right. He's got $18 million on his next contract, on the next year.
Right.
As a closer.
So you're not going to be able to trade him. Not that you're going to trade him anyway. He's a better Armando Benitez.
Oh my God. No. He's much better than Armando.
No, but you get my point. In a clutch situation, I have a lot of confidence.
Kluber's gone, right? Yep. Kluber's gone. Severino, look, was a building block, right?
But he's been out for 2 years. Yeah,
hadn't pitched in over 700 days, came back this year. Really pitched poorly last night. Not to say you put him in a tough spot to begin with, but $10.2 million and he's arbitration eligible. That's a $13 to $14 million contract next year, regardless.
If he wins arbitration, which is certainly not certain considering the last 2 years.
Well, let's put it this way: even if he loses arbitration, the minimum is $12 million if they tender him. Now, here's the question. Do you tender him?
I think you have to after you've paid him $20 million over the last 2 years for nothing.
Okay.
I don't know how you don't, but if they didn't, I wouldn't be disappointed.
All right. So Judge has 1 more year of arbitration. That $10 million is going to come up to 20. Fair. Right?
And he's worth it.
Look, anybody's worth it on a 1-year deal. Which is kind of why Severino, I say you do, because it's a 1-year deal. It doesn't really matter. Gary Sanchez going to go up to $9 million, $8 million. Again, a 1-year deal. Urshela up to $6 million. Torres up to $6 million at least, maybe 10. Gardner and then you have the nobodies, right? Less than $1 million. Seth, how many building blocks are there on this team? Because I don't see many.
Cole, Judge, Stanton. That's what you got. Because let's look at Torres has regressed.
Yes.
Ursula has regressed. Miguel Andujar, who was a borderline rookie of the year 2 years ago, is now in AAA.
Yeah, not even
the
on
pitchers,
this.
They have no innings guys. They have no David Wells, who's going to go 15-7 and with a 3.6 ERA and throw 240 innings. They don't have that guy.
Nope. You hope that was going to be Talon or Montgomery, and it hasn't been either one of those guys.
Right.
Now, they're both arbitration eligible, so easily $4 or $5 million, no big deal. And look, ladies and gentlemen, I know we're saying $4 or $5 million, no big deal. In a baseball sense for the New York Yankees, the one thing that the Yankees have that the Dodgers have, and I would say probably the Mets have now, maybe the Red Sox, there are 4 or 5 teams have the ability to make a mistake. So if you want to keep these $4 or $5 million players and cut them later, no big deal. So when we talk $4 or $5 million, $4 or $5 million is not equal across the board. If these are the Kansas City Royals, you may not tender Luis Severino. But if you're the New York Yankees, I think you have to.
Yep.
So you have 3 guys. You have, in your opinion, maybe 4. Cole, Stanton, Judge.
Who else can you legitimately build around that you have confidence in? Look, I like Anthony Rizzo.
And and Rizzo's earning $16.5 million.
Well, he's a free agent after this year.
Right.
So the problem is, again, what are you going to pay for an over 30 first baseman?
Yep.
You paid LeMahieu 4 years and 80. And going into it didn't look like a bad deal, but it doesn't look very good right now.
He's not even on here. I don't know why he's not on here. Oh, because he was injured. Right. Now you have and here's another one, right? So LeMahieu has $15 million. Britton has $13 million. Hicks has 2 more years in that contract at $10.5.
That's it? He only has 2 more years?
Yeah, I think it was a 4-year deal.
It was a 7-year deal.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He's got a lot more.
Yeah, he's at $10 million a year. Which, if he's your starting if he's your starting center fielder and he can stay healthy.
Yeah, but Britton, I think, has another year on that deal, right? If I had to guess. Yep, 1 more at 14. Yeah, this is a lot of sunken cost for the New York Yankees, which when you say tear it down, do you think Yankee fans are accepting of that? And by tearing down, I mean really tearing it down. Like being out of the playoffs, not even being a playoff contender for a couple of years. Is that something Yankee fans would tolerate?
If I think they saw a plan in place, I think they could handle a year or 2. Look, the Red Sox tore it down for a year or 2, and they're still not a great team by any stretch. But they're on the upswing, and they don't have the pitching. They can't beat the Rays, but they don't have the pitching to compete. But they tore it down for a year or 2, and they bounced back up. I think if there was a plan in place, the problem is you look at this team and they have all these free swinging guys. And, Torres was a 300 hitter. Urshel was a 300 hitter. LeMahieu won batting crowns. And they're all fall in love with becoming power guys. I don't need 7 Giancarlo Stantons. And 2 will suffice.
You got 2 of those, right?
Got him and Judge.
You got 2 of those that can hit 516-foot singles.
Right. Yeah. Well, the game was over to me the second when Stanton hit it off the wall. Right. Stood there and admired it.
And the play-by-play announcer thought it was out too, which made it even
stupid. Sounds stupider. But the reality is, look,
and Stanton is right. That would have been out of basically any other park.
But it wasn't.
But you're not playing in any other park.
You're playing in Fenway. So Cashman has been there 25 years. He took over in 96, 97, whatever it is. pretty much took Gene Michaels' team and helped, mold it, but took Gene Michaels' team and gave you 4 championships. They have one championship since then, which was a mercenary team led by Rodriguez and Teixeira. Mercenary. We hoped 5 years ago when they lost in a couple of competitive ALCSs, that this was a young, fun, exciting team. And they're not. They're an unlikable home run or nothing team that has no depth in their pitching because everyone is injured. They have no innings guys. They don't field particularly well. They don't get on base particularly well. They back their way into 90 wins. That's what they are at this point.
So I ask you again, are they very similar to the teams that we grew up with?
No, because I don't remember if the teams that we grew up with were winning 90. I think they were winning they were winning like 85, 86. I think they were better than that. But yeah, I can see the similarity. They're not getting into the playoffs as one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the American League. Now again, it's a 1-game playoff. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball. Adam Wainwright's pitching tonight. They could very well lose.
But the Dodgers have a sustainable team.
Yes, they do.
Part of the reason that they have a sustainable team is the farm system, right? And that's the reason why the Yankees of the 90s, and I know we talk about the 80s, but talk about the 90s and the 2000s, were so good, was the sustainability of that farm system to bring up players, especially the core 4, right? Bernie Williams, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettitte, and Derek Jeter, who, while only having one a Hall of Famer, the other 3 are in the Hall of Very, Very Good, right? Your favorite concept of Hall of Very Good. So there is obviously something very peculiar going on Seth's screen that he's deep diving in. But they are the Hall of – they were able to supplement and then use those prospects to acquire other players like Roberto Kelly, where you brought Roberto Kelly up and you traded him for Paul O'Neill, where you were able to utilize your farm system. The Yankees have done one thing and one thing really, I won't say well, they've done it very often in the last 3 years. They've used their checkbook. They have done that very well in the fact that they have signed players. Now, the unfortunate part is, as you and I both know, you don't win World Series with free agents. You don't win a Super Bowl with I guess the Buccaneers, could put something to task on there, but even the Buccaneers had Godwin and Evans, right? And their defense was made of Levante David and Devin White, excuse me, both drafted, right? And even their corners were drafted. So no team in any sport that I can think of other than the Miami Heat basically built a team on free agency. Can you remember another team that basically built from the top down on free agents? I mean, the Heat just came to mind, right?
2003 Florida Marlins.
Yeah, you're right. But the World Series MVP was not a free agent.
No, that was back.
I'm just saying, their ace of their staff.
Both those Florida Marlin teams, 97 and 03, were free agency.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Bet you didn't think I was going to come up with that one.
No, also before a luxury tax.
True.
So not that the luxury tax really has much to say for the Dodgers this year, but the Yankees and Red Sox have tried to stay under that tax to reset. Now, resetting, the reason you try and reset under the luxury tax is to not accumulate penalties. The unfortunate part is when you go down that road, you're positioning yourself to spend more on free agency, not to build. So, I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And as we said before, not really sustainable, at least to me. And look,
one team is a perfect example of that. By the way, with jumping to the other side of the Hudson. Well, not the other side of the Hudson. I guess it's just jumping to Queens. Who are you liking as your new manager?
She's
Or your
your
GM? You want to get a GM first?
queen to be. Well, manager.
You need to get a GM before you get a manager.
Yeah, you got to get a GM or a president or something, some guy, right? You got to get the
guy. You need to get some guy.
You got to get the guy.
You need some. No, not the guy. Some guy.
Well, or some girl.
Or some girl.
Kim and
is Amy Trask walking? Is Amy Trask walking through that door?
Or
she may be the Giants' new GM. She may be the Giants' new GM.
You'd like that. At least she knows what the heck she's doing.
Bar ain't set that high right now, my friend.
So, look, if you're looking at the Mets and you're looking at who the GM's going to be after they file Luis Rojas, there are three names that really come to mind. One is Theo Epstein, who works for the MLB Commissioner's Office. Theo has a great reputation, but really not that great of a reputation. If you think about all the guys that worked under him, one of them was Porter, the guy that the Mets let go because of sexual harassment claims. So his reputation has kind of taken a hit. And if you're Theo Epstein, do you come to work under Steve Cohen if you don't get a piece of the pie? And I'm thinking probably not. Billy Beane. I would love to see Billy Beane in New York. That's the guy I want. And
I'm sure you do.
I do. But the Red Sox wanted him first, right? And he didn't go there if you saw Moneyball. David Stern, who is the
guy from Milwaukee.
Yep.
Not the dead commissioner dude.
Well done, sir. That is you are like, wow, you pulled up the Marlins. Now you pull up I am
not. Am I not a baseball extraordinaire?
No.
No.
No, I'm not. No, you're not. Look, if you can't get Billy Beane, can you get David Forst? Maybe. Could you get the guy under Billy Beane? Maybe. There aren't that many of those guys. And if Brian Cashman gets fired, does Steve Cohen pick him up? I don't know.
Probably. I mean, if you're Cashman, you've lived here for 25 years, your whole life is here.
Yeah.
And you have a chance to literally move 15 minutes away.
And put the screws to your old team.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's putting the screws to your old team. You've been there 25 years. They've made you a very, very, very rich man. I don't think it's putting the screws to your old team.
Is Brian Cashman a Hall of Famer?
Is what?
Brian Cashman a Hall of Famer.
Is he going to get in or should he get in?
Either or.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And probably not.
Okay. Four championships, right?
Five
championships. 5 championships in 25 years. So basically a 20% success rate.
But again, I find it hard to attribute all the early championships to him.
You attribute it to Bob Watson or Gene Michael?
I would probably a little bit of both. Just like Buck Showalter deserved a lot of credit from the managerial.
Well, and that was going to be my next question, is that you gave it – so Joe Torre makes it in, right?
Joe Torre managed the day-to-day. He didn't – the players who were already in by the time he came in. His job is to manage, not to bring in players. It's not the same argument.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But Buck Showalter – so does –
I think Buck Showalter would have won title there too. I think Buck Showalter is a hell of a manager. But are you there?
Yep. One of us froze up. It was probably me.
Okay. I think Buck Showalter is a great manager. I think he would have won titles. I don't know if he would have won 4 and 5 years, but to a degree, that team in a lot of ways was so good by the last, not the 96 team, which was a struggle, but the 98, 99 teams were sensational.
Okay. All right. So as far as who the Mets are going to hire as a manager, it really doesn't matter until you get a GM. Now that the Red Sox go against Tampa Bay, I don't think there's any shot for the Red Sox to win.
I didn't think there was a shot for the Yankees to beat Tampa either.
Agreed. Going into that, I didn't think there was a shot.
It's just a bad matchup for them.
Agreed. And what do you think about Houston and Chicago?
Can't stand either team. Hope it ends in a tie.
Okay, what do you think about Houston and Chicago?
I think Chicago wins. I think their pitching is better. I think their pitching, although Houston's lineup is a little bit better, I think Chicago wins, and then I think Tampa beats Chicago when Tony La Russa gets drunk and sleeps through Game 7 of the ALCS.
As long as he doesn't get behind the wheel, he can drink as much as he wants.
There you go.
Is that fair? I mean,
fair enough.
All right. So tonight's matchup, the Dodgers against the Cardinals. It's a one-game playoff, which, look, you and I both don't like this philosophy of one game.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's utterly ridiculous.
It is utterly ridiculous. It goes along the same lines as the shootout in hockey and the shootout in soccer, because this should be a microcosm of the season, and one game is not a microcosm of the season. It does not prove your depth, and even more so, you could tell by the fact that if you look at all the inactive players on last night's Red Sox-Yankees game, it was like half the pitching staff for both sides, because you weren't gonna have a starting pitcher. Chris Sale wasn't going to pitch last night. So it does not prove the depth or how the team works. I'm going to pick the Dodgers because they're the Dodgers and they're the better team. But would it surprise me if Wainwright and Molina pulled this out again? No. I mean, Wainwright and Molina, remember, had about a 1.3% postseason odds in July. And are now in the playoffs. Now, I'll tell you, that is what baseball's about. It's the long run. It's the over the course of the season, how you can improve. And them going from 1.3% to playing the defending champions, that's what baseball's about. So I'll pick the Dodgers because I'll pick the Dodgers.
And I'll pick the Cardinals just to be a contrarian.
Okay, so Dodgers against the Giants or Cardinals against the Giants. That's where I think the Dodgers definitely have the upper hand over the Giants, but I would pick I'd pick the Giants over the Cardinals if that was the case.
Yes, I agree. Giants over the Cardinals.
And then Atlanta or Milwaukee. I'm going to go with Milwaukee. Look, I think Atlanta is very good, but Acuna's out. Now, granted, they've been able to deal with that throughout the whole regular season, but this is the playoffs. And I think the Brewers are just a better team.
I do too. Look, practically speaking, I think we're looking at a rematch with the Brewers and Dodgers. I kind of hope it's going to be the Cardinals. And in a one game, who the hell knows? But yeah, I have the Brewers over Atlanta as well.
Look, I want to go back to 1982. I want the Brewers to play the Cardinals. But the unfortunate part is now they're in the same league, which is not a rematch. And I'll say, look, if I got the Dodgers and the Brewers, who do I think is going to win is the Dodgers. Who do I want to win? I think everybody outside of LA wants the Brewers to win that series.
Of course. Look, in the American League, you have three of the most unlikable teams in baseball. And you have Tampa, which is also not overly liked.
Oh, I think people like Tampa as the underdog concept.
Except they're not an underdog anymore. Like, that's the whole thing. So, I mean, to me, what I would like to see is I'd like to see Tampa, Milwaukee.
Yes.
I think that's what most of us want to see.
Yes.
Who are sports fans as opposed to rooting for a specific team. What do I really think it's going to be? Probably the Dodgers, Tampa.
Which would be a great series. Like, I think that is I think that's if the Dodgers are in it, I think they have to play Tampa, because if they play anybody else, they're just going to roll over them. Tampa at least has a shot. And I think everybody – look, granted, maybe Tampa is not the, quote, underdog that we all remember, but if they go against the Dodgers, they absolutely play the underdog role.
Yes.
And I think
it's almost like Gonzaga, where after a certain period of time, how many times can you be the underdog?
But you
when
want
you're
them to win once, right?
Yeah.
Tampa hasn't won, so you want them to win once.
Right. And then once you do, then then they're no longer. But that's how
Then
you
you
feel about that's how you feel about
That's how I feel about Butler. That's how I feel
yeah.
about Gonzaga. That's how I feel about a lot of teams. Is that yes, you are a underdog. Yes, you spend less money. Yes, you play in a different conference. But the fact that you're in the Final Four every year does not help me.
No.
So is Brett Boone back next year?
Aaron Boone's not back either.
Aaron Boone, excuse me. Aaron Boone's not back. Aaron Bleepin Boone is not back. Brian Cashman not back?
No.
So you think they are full cleaning house?
I think and I feel bad because I'm kind of stealing some of this from my conversation earlier today. But the point is valid.
Credit. You're not stealing.
I'm giving Mike Nirenberg all credit. If you are in the last week of a playoff race and you can't sell out your stadium against Tampa Bay right now, you do not have an interesting product. You do not have a particularly good product. And you're not a team that people are excited. No one I know was that excited. Again, I know some pretty big Yankee fans. I have never seen them less excited for this kind of game than they were last night.
I want, and maybe this is a conversation to have with Mike, but let me take a little contradictory tone to this. Number one, we're still in the remnants of COVID, right? So there is less appeal to going to a stadium to begin with. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is the fact that they were assured of a playoff spot, right? I mean,
no, not until there was about 2 games left,
which was the Tampa series.
So maybe the last game the last game on a beautiful weekend.
Right, they were playing Seattle. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And is there winning fatigue? So this team has
won one title in 20 years.
Yeah, but you're always in the playoffs. Like if you showed if the Mets were in the playoffs this year, they would have sold out every single game. No question about it. They would have sold out every game. Because they've been in the playoffs, 3 times in the last 10 years. How many times have the Yankees not been in the playoffs the last 10 years? 3?
Once.
Right.
3 times already.
So is it to the point, and I say this living in Atlanta, where I would doubt, is tonight's game in Atlanta? I don't remember if it's in Atlanta.
No, because Atlanta's not playing tonight. Seriously,
where
are you?
Sorry. So game 3.
It's in Milwaukee.
Game 3, October 11th, a Monday night in Atlanta. I would be shocked if that was a sellout crowd. Shocked. And the reasoning is because Atlanta has been in the playoffs so many times, and this is the same reason why in the 90s they couldn't sell out a first-round playoff series, is because talk to me when you make the World Series. That's always been the concept here. Talk to me when it's important. For the Hawks this past year, it was important because they hadn't been there in so long.
Right.
Is it a point that the Yankees, who have always been there, it's basically, yeah, we're used to this. Talk to me when we're in the World Series. Is that a foundation that you can wrap your head around? Or is
no.
that or
no,
am I just
not.
speaking out of my ass, which is
totally I think you're talking out of your ass. It's not like the team has been to, in the last 10 years, they've been to 3 World Series and 8 ALCSs where, there's a fatigue that correlates. They've gone to no World Series since 2009, I don't think. They've been to 1 ALCS.
I'm looking at it now. So, okay, so they lost yesterday. Last year they lost in the ALDS. The year before they lost in the ALCS.
Right, that's the Houston. That's the Houston cheating series.
Yep. Before that, the ALDS. Before that, the ALCS.
To who? Boston.
Then nothing. Then they lost in the wild card. Then nothing. ALCS, ALDS, ALCS, won the World Series. Yes. 2017 was against Houston. And 2019, I think it was also against Houston. Yep, both against
19 Houston. 19 was the controversial one.
Ching, ching, ching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Garbage cans. And then 2017 was the same thing. So not the garbage cans, but the same.
Yeah. They have not had the success that would give them win fatigue.
Now,
they're not the Yankees of 1962 who had been in the World Series 12 out of 14 years and won 8 of them. That's win fatigue. Now, this is nothing to do with that.
So to be fair, since 2008, they drew 4.2 million fans, which is insane. Since then, they have not drawn less than 3.1. That's still a lot of fans, Seth, regardless of whether you have fatigue or not.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people coming to the park. Now, the difference is the player's age, and this is what we were talking about, is now at 29.3, which is higher than the last 5 seasons. But during their runs, it was in the 30s. It was in the high 30s, actually, in 2005 when they lost to those Red Sox. They had an average age of 34.2. That's a really old team. But again, that's a team that grew, right, together, as opposed to putting together through free agency. Okay. So this is the most baseball we've talked all year. So truth be told, Seth was interested in some baseball, so we talked some baseball. So moving on to the Jets, who I am wearing my Chad Pennington jersey, because I will not invest in another jersey until a guy signs his second contract with the team. It's true, I won't. Sam Darnold didn't sign a second contract. Also, I would have gotten the Sam Darnold jersey. I'm hoping that's either Elijah. You want to know the last Jet that signed a second contract that was a first-round pick? Take a guess.
The last Jet to sign a second contract who was a first-round pick.
Which should be norm. It should be normal. That's exactly what you should do.
I'm almost thinking it's like someone like John Abraham.
No, it's after Abraham, thankfully. But Abraham did not sign a second contract. He went to the Falcons.
He went to the Falcons, but I thought he was traded to the Falcons during his second contract.
No, he was traded because they wouldn't re-sign him to a big deal. So he was traded and then signed the big deal. It was after Abraham, but you're along the same lines. It's the same type of player.
I don't know. Who is it?
The last Jet to sign a second contract, first-round pick, was Muhammad Wilkerson.
Wow.
Right. And I believe that was in 2009.
I was going to guess 08. Wow. You guys stink.
I wonder who the last Giant to sign a second contract was. First-round pick.
Pretty sure it wasn't DeAndre Baker.
Oh, no. We know that. But hold on. So the Giants' first-round picks. Let's go through that because I think it's definitely something to be said for how bad these two teams are. So Evan Ingram, hasn't signed his second year because he was franchised, right?
Yeah, but this is his free agent year. He's gone.
Eli Apple. Oh, Odell Beckham was the last one, and then they traded him about 6 weeks later. But before that, Justin Pugh, no. David Wilson, no.
Pugh was a mistake. They should have re-signed Pugh.
Okay. Wilson, Amukamura, did they sign him to a second contract?
No, I don't think so. Pugh, they should have.
So it's got to be JPP. That's the last guy.
Just 2012,
2010.
2010? Yeah, that's right. He was a rookie for the title. Yeah.
But that just tells you why the teams – so Wilkerson was 2011, sorry. That's – by the way, these are the other Jet first-round picks. Quentin Copels, D. Milner, Sheldon Richardson, Calvin Pryor, Leonard Williams, who got his second contract with you, Darren Lee, Jamal Adams, Sam Darnold, Quinnen Williams, Becton, Wilson, Tucker. Yeah, not so good. No. Not so good. And that's part of why, for the same reason that the Yankees are faltering, this is a reason why football teams falter. You don't hit on your first-round picks, that's your currency. That's where you're going to go. And while the Jets and Giants both won this week, and look, the Giants played well, and Daniel Jones played very well. He's still their leading rusher, by the way, in case you didn't realize that.
Yeah, I know.
I believe
but Barkley,
he's the leading rusher outside of Derrick Henry. So, I mean,
Barkley looked good though. Look, they very well could be 3-1. They should be 2-2. The Washington loss was an abomination, and they should have beaten Atlanta. But they're a very flawed team, and they're not going anywhere. Dallas looks like with Washington's defense really taking just a crapping this year.
Yeah,
it really looks like it's Dallas's division to lose, but that doesn't really mean a heck of a lot because they're Dallas, and 3-4 playoff wins in 25 years does not instill a great deal of confidence that this team would go anywhere more than.
They released Jalen Smith.
I saw. I wonder if the Giants try and pick him up.
I would think probably because Blake Martinez is out for most of the year.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking that. So they definitely have a spot there. I think they'll wait till waivers is over because that's another $7.2 million. I'm not sure. I don't know how much cap room the Giants have, but I would presume it's not that much.
Not much.
And even if they did, why would you take on that money, even if they wanted to? No. So the Jets get to play Atlanta this week in London, not in Atlanta, which is what I was hoping for. Well, I get to go to New York. I get to spend the time with my niece and nephew and watch Jets football. So maybe a win. Maybe they go to 2-3. Was it an impressive win? I don't know if the Giants was an impressive win. Would you call it an impressive win?
It's impressive that they went to New Orleans and won. I'm not going to say they certainly didn't dominate the game. It's a good win. Look, you beat a New Orleans team, which most people think is a borderline playoff team. Yes. A team that beat Green Bay 3 weeks ago by 35.
Yes.
You go to New Orleans and you beat them, and you kind of overpower them at the end of the game based on your offensive line, which makes no sense. But you do it without your number 2 wide receiver, without your number 3 wide receiver. It's a good win. It's a legit good win. The Jets, look, any win the Jets get is a good win. And to beat Tennessee, where literally you put 10 in the box against Derrick Henry.
And almost lost.
And look, we saw a couple really good Zach Wilson passes and one not so good.
Well, he's a rookie quarterback, right? I mean, we saw that with Trevor Lawrence on Thursday night too. Is the fact that rookie quarterbacks are going to make mistakes.
Yes.
Excuse me. Thank you. This Thursday, look, I'll be on a plane for I think an hour of this game, but the Rams at Seattle. Now that's look. I don't give Fox and the NFL Network don't get a whole lot of great games. I don't know how they got this one. Like, this is great. I love this game.
The Sunday night games have been incredible. The Sunday and Monday night games have been insanely good this year.
And you
Buffalo, Kansas City.
Yeah, Buffalo, Kansas City. The Monday night game I could deal without, which is Indy at Baltimore. But the Sunday night game is very good.
Yeah.
Buffalo at Kansas City. There are a number of – look, Green Bay at Cincinnati is a good game.
Wait, did you say Green Bay at Kansas City?
Green Bay at Cincinnati.
Oh.
Cincinnati's 3-1. Like that, I'll so far at the quarter pole, I'll go like this. But yes, 3-1. Detroit at Minnesota, not so good a game. Is this it was either last week or the week before I pontificated that this is the last year of Ben Roethlisberger. And I said that because it reminded me of the him being like Y.A. Tittle.
The picture where he's kneeling on the ground and he's got the blood. The difference is Y.A. Tittle had no hair. Ben still's got the
right, but this is the end, right? Like I can't see him coming back for another year at this.
Similarly to the Giants, Pittsburgh lost the difference is Pittsburgh lost a really good offensive line. The Giants didn't have a really good offensive line.
Correct.
Pittsburgh hasn't replaced it. So he has no help. Najee Harris, you can't run. Najee Harris has not been running great, but you can't run through that because there's nothing there. There's no room.
Well, they lost Pouncey. They lost to Castro. I know they replaced all 5 of their offensive linemen. So that is not, and it goes unnoticed by a lot of people as to why offensive line, when you replace a whole line now as opposed to maybe 15 years ago, why it's different. Well, 15 years ago, the collective bargaining agreement allowed a lot more practices during the summer. There were 2-a-days all the time. Now there just aren't. There are very limited practices during the summer. So these guys are not getting the, quote, gelling time. Justin Herbert at home against Cleveland, another real, like there is some.
That's fun.
That's a fun game. That's a fun game. Philadelphia goes to Carolina. Stephen Gilmore gets traded today for a 6th-round pick. For all those New England people that wondered why, well, $57,000 under the cap. That's all you had. And you wanted to re-sign Jamie Collins, and Stephen Gilmore wasn't coming back anyway to play for this team. No. Not without a renegotiated contract. So he goes home to Carolina. And Carolina, if Sam Darnold continues, and you and I both like Sam Darnold at the beginning of this year with a offensive line and some weapons, which in the words of Seth Kamens, the New York Jets last year had the worst skill players of all time for one team. Giving him a DJ Moore and a Robbie Anderson, surprisingly, Moore is getting more of it than Anderson, which is lovely for me. And the fact that Christian McCaffrey is hurt, but they are playing as well as any team in that division. They are playing just as well as Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay needs to shore up that defense. I mean,
their pass defense. Well, that's why they brought in Richard Sherman, as you said, but they've been decimated on the back four.
Absolutely. And that weather on Sunday night was, I got to tell you, you and I have sat through some bad games. That I was very happy to be sitting on my couch that day. I mean, that was some of the worst rain I have seen in a football game in a really long time. I enjoyed watching my friends walk out of that stadium with me sitting on the couch. But at the quarter pole, and I guess it's kind of hard saying it's the quarter pole with 17 games, but we pretty much discount week 17 anyway. Who are your surprises here in the NFL, and who are your disappointments? Give me a disappointing team or a disappointing player and a surprise team or a surprise player.
Well, okay. I'm just kind of pulling up the standings so I can kind of take a quick look. I mean, I think the Dolphins have been a disappointment. They've been they've been shellacked for the most part. Pittsburgh's an obvious disappointment. Indianapolis is a disappointment. The Chiefs have been a disappointment. The Chiefs have been a disappointment as well. Just because they're 2-2, their defense being this bad.
Can you label Indy, Pittsburgh? I could see Miami because Miami's on the way up, right? Can you label Pittsburgh and Indy disappointments? I mean, at the beginning,
Indy, yes. Indy, absolutely.
Okay.
Pittsburgh, if you want to say, look, you thought they were going to be a 5-12, 6-11 team. I thought they'd be around 8-8, 8-9, whatever you want to call it. But they just haven't been competitive other than that weirdly fluky Bills game. Those are the teams to me that have really kind of been disappointing. Who's been surprising? Obviously, the Panthers have been surprising. The Panthers have been surprising. The Raiders have been surprising. The Broncos have been good. As for a player standpoint, I think you have to make a determination. Are we talking about fantasy purposes or are we talking about regular purposes?
Well, I think you're talking about regular purposes, not necessarily in fantasy league. Look, Sam Darnold is a top 15 fantasy quarterback on a given week, right? 15 to 16. He'd probably be in that middle ground. But his play this year has been surprising.
Yes.
Whether not necessarily fantasy-wise, because obviously he was a top 28 to 32 last year, and he's jumped it up to the 15 to 16 mark. But his play more importantly, his lack of turnovers has been incredibly surprising to me. Yes, you gave him weapons, but he has been efficient, and that team has played incredibly well. They are 3-1 right now, and they've won all three of those games pretty handily. I mean, they're outscoring their opponents by 31 points. That defense is top-notch defense, and they just imported a former player of the year as a corner, which is the one spot with the injury to J.C. Horn that they really needed to fill.
Yeah, it's been a good run. I think Washington at 2-2, their team. I think their team is made. I think their defense has been very disappointing.
I would agree, but Heineke has been very surprising, right?
I don't know. He's been very good. I don't know how surprising he's been. Based on what we saw last year in that playoff game, you thought there was a chance he could be a competent NFL quarterback because he went head-to-head with Brady last year and didn't flinch whatsoever.
So who are the two teams that have given up the most points? Don't look. Three teams that have given up the most points. Don't look.
Three. Okay, I'm not looking. The three teams are Kansas City.
Yep, that's one.
No. It's not. Is it Detroit?
Nope.
No, that wouldn't be interesting if it was. It's not the Raiders. I don't know. Who else?
All right, so Kansas City has given up 125. The Falcons have given up 128. And the Washington football team has given up 122. So for as you said, the disappointing on the defense, we thought that would be the strength, not the weakness of this team. They've given up 122 points. They've scored 101, which would put them in the top half of the league. They just can't keep giving up that many points.
No.
And so as far as points for, who do you think is leading the league in points for?
Can I stick with Kansas City?
You can. You'd be wrong, but you can. They're at 134, which is close. The Arizona Cardinals are at 140.
Yeah, I was going to say Arizona or Buffalo. I assume Arizona, Buffalo, Dallas.
Buffalo's at 134 too. So I mean, you're pretty close, and Dallas is 126. So I mean, the only team that's leading their division with a there are two. Sorry, the Titans are minus 16 in points, but they're leading at 2-2. But the Packers are minus 5 in points at 3-1. And
the Packers was just a really bad first game.
And it's a really bad division, right? I mean, Chicago, Minnesota. Minnesota's been disappointing at 1-3.
But the funny thing is, they haven't played badly. The Cincinnati game went to overtime and lost. They were right in the Cleveland game. I don't remember who the other team was that they lost to.
Well, they've actually outscored their opponents by 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, their games have been tight.
Yeah, so they lost to Arizona 34-33.
Right, the missed field goal by Greg Joseph in the game.
They lost to Cincinnati by 3. They beat Seattle by 13, and they lost to Cleveland by 7. Look, they have Detroit this week. That should get them back on the W board. And then they have then they go to at Carolina versus Dallas, at Baltimore, at the Chargers, versus Green Bay, at San Francisco. That is a tough run of games. I mean,
it is.
They're 1-3 now. Okay, so at Detroit, home against Detroit's a win. Let's go 2-3. At Carolina, I don't give them a win there. 2-4. Versus Dallas at home, let's give them a win. 3-4. At Baltimore, I don't know.
No.
Okay, 3-5. At the Chargers, not the way the Chargers played the other night. 3-6. Home against Green Bay, okay, 4-6. At San Francisco, probably a loss, 4-7. At Detroit, 5-7. They're 5-7. Mike Zimmer may be fired by that point. 12 games in.
Yeah. Look, Zimmer's had a nice run there, but the team is stale. They have some good receivers. Cook can't stay healthy. Cousins is played really well, but has been a placeholder for Kellen Mond, it seems. And the defense, which is Zimmer's trademark, is just not a particularly great defense.
No, it's interesting that you say that Dalvin Cook has not been healthy because you're absolutely right.
Thanks.
But
he's on my fantasy team. I'm aware.
The point that I was going to make was the signing of running backs to huge deals. They're second deals, right? So Dalvin Cook signs a 5-year, $63 million contract. Christian McCaffrey signs a 6-year, $72 million contract or something along those lines. You know Barkley's going to get a huge deal, right? Probably 6 years and 72, somewhere in there, right? With a whole lot guaranteed. It again proves the point that spending on running backs is not a good idea for any of these teams. Derrick Henry, I think, got a 4-year, $40 million contract, and people were like, he took too little. Well, is the market really there for him to get much more than that anyway? And with the amount of carries and amount of touches he's getting this year, I see Jamal Anderson very quickly coming from him.
The Dirty Bird?
The guy that holds the record for most touches in a year. Yeah, I think it's 586.
And then pretty much never played again.
Right. By the way, here's a good question for you. Before the Dirty Bird, who had the most touches in a season? I don't know why I know this, but I do.
Walter?
There is absolutely zero chance of you getting this right. James Wilder.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1983?
Somewhere in that, whatever. The pewter jerseys of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, white and pewter, but with Leroy Selman. Yeah. So, okay. So Syracuse loses this week to Florida State in a game that they probably should have won. Maryland loses in a game that they absolutely should have lost. And they lose their top wideout for the season. It's
the one position they could afford the loss. Their wide receivers are really, really deep. The Demas has been fantastic this year. It's a shame.
Okay. So Syracuse plays Wake Forest this week. Hopefully do a bounce back. I have no idea who Maryland plays.
Ohio State.
Do we have – oh, well, that's not a bounce back game.
No.
Probably not anyway. Although, it could happen.
Not a great Ohio State team.
No, not a great – is there a great team right now in college football?
Well, there's Bama, Georgia, then there's everybody else. I don't know. It's too early to tell.
Are either one – so this week we have Oklahoma at Texas in some rivalry game, which
Red River rivalry.
Red River rivalry, sorry. Arkansas against Ole Miss. Ole Miss laying an egg last week. Really laying an egg last week.
So did Arkansas.
And then we have Georgia and Auburn. Georgia at Auburn. Is this the game where Georgia could conceivably trip up?
No.
Wow. Okay, that was emphatic.
No.
No chance.
No. Auburn barely has a quarterback at this point. Bo Nix was benched, came back. He pulled his Johnny Manziel pass, which was pretty awesome to beat LSU. But no, Georgia's not losing that game.
And in the game of the week, Penn State visits Iowa. I know absolutely nothing about either one of those two teams other than Penn State wears white and Iowa wears black.
Iowa's defense is freaking awesome. That's all that needs to be said. Their defense, they intercepted Teg to his brother, Taria, 6 times. Or they intercepted Maryland 6 times. It was ugly. Their defense is really, really good. I'll take Iowa at home.
Iowa at home. Okay, we're in our last 5 minutes, so I will go first, and you can go after me. So the Padres fired Jace Tingler today, and you're probably saying, "Who the heck is that?"
He's the manager of the Padres.
I understand. Not you are saying that. You, the collective, are saying that. Talk about a raw deal. I mean, really, this is a guy that got hired after 15 years of being in the minors. He guides them to their first postseason last year in 13 years. And then this year, yeah, they were in first place and they fell, and they weren't in the playoffs. They finished 28 games behind the San Francisco Giants. But this is where you take responsibility if you're the GM, not the manager. I don't understand how GMs, and this is kind of going back to is Brian Cashman on the block too, how GMs don't fall as well as the manager for this. Because A.J. Preller is the one that put this team together. He's the one that put $190 million into Eric Hosmer, which is untradeable. He put $300 million into Manny Machado, who had a great year. And he signed Fernando Tatis Jr., who got hurt before they fell. How much of this is a manager's fault? And how much is it a organization's fault? And I'll say the same thing for the Mets. Luis Rojas got a poor deal. He got a poor deal. He dealt with, I think, 4 general managers over the course of his time, and not one of them was there for more than 8 months. Like, that's not a good deal for him. Yes, Brody, I think, got fired 8 months after Luis Rojas came on. So I think he had 4 total GMs. You got to give these guys a shot if you're going to be toiling in the minors and you finally get a shot. Give the guy a shot and give him a real shot. So I just got a problem with it. Okay.
Well, let me ask you, would you be giving Urban Meyer a big shot right now?
No. Urban Meyer, I don't understand. I don't understand how he thought he could go into a bar and nobody would record him. Is he kind of like, hey, I'm God in Ohio, everybody turn off their cell phone because it won't? Like, that's what it sounded like to me. That's that's an Alec Baldwin out of Malice God complex going on right there.
Yeah.
Man, he should look. Should he be fired? No, he did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. Should he be divorced? Yeah, there's a whole different game to that. But should he be fired, Seth? I don't know. I mean, if you lose the trust of your people, the only reason I think he should be fired, if there was a reason, is he said that he was doing one thing to his team and then went and did another thing. I'm going to go spend time with my grandkids, and I got caught in a lie. And at that point, how do you trust your coach?
Do you not know?
Do you not know?
All right, I think it's time to call it, my friend.
Okay, for Seth Kamens, who's over.
Are we doing the NHL preview next week?
NHL preview next week. You got it off because it's close to the 15th. So take it off, my friend, and we'll see you for the NBA preview the week after.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. For Seth Kamens, who's over there, I'm Sean Palmer, Seth and Sean Sports Radio, and StreamYard. And I'll see you next week. Seth will see you in 2 weeks. Have a good one, everybody.